back in the office this week, listeners. I hope you didn't miss me too much. I traveled to the other side of the world, to Denmark of all places, for the Linked Summit to be a guest international speaker, which was such an amazing experience. I have to say, Meta and her team really organized an event that has left an imprint on me. There was something kind of special about this event. We had around 600 attendees, 450 coming live, 150 watching online. And then we also had over 35 speakers, some of which were international like myself. My only regret from the whole experience is that I never learned how to speak Danish, because I would have loved to experience all of the other speakers. So I met people like Richard Moore, Richard Vanderblom, Yasmin Alic, Anna Todorovic. Who else did we meet? Mark Williams was there, plus all of the local Danish people that had attended. So I met so many new friends that were locals. So shout out to anyone that might be a new podcast listener from the land of Denmark. It was just one of those things that is going to be a moment in my career that I pinch myself and say, did that really just happen? Did the power of LinkedIn get me from 4 years ago talking about company pages to now being on an international stage for the second time this year? I'm telling you, people, anything is possible. But during the event, I was asked lots and lots of questions. I was there to speak about company pages, decoding them for business growth, and it was something that every time I speak about company pages, I'm not going to lie, listeners, what I actually think when I'm about to walk into that room is, why would anyone want to know about company pages? They're the kind of uncool cousin when it comes to LinkedIn. But honestly, the room was packed. I got the highest rated feedback on the whole thing. And it just reaffirmed for me just how important pages are as part of a business strategy on LinkedIn. And I got asked lots and lots of questions, both in that session. I did a second session, which was a Q&A, plus people that I was just networking with. So I thought that I would share with all of you the 3 questions that I got asked, which I think caused the biggest roadblocks in most businesses that are looking to leverage LinkedIn to grow. So would you like to know what those 3 questions are? Let's dive into the very first question that get asked. So imagine that I've just finished presenting, and then later on during the day, my friend Richard Vanderblom is on stage. And in this particular case, the question that I got asked was, Michelle, I really loved your presentation this morning, and I just went and watched Richard's presentation, and he said some things which were, kind of contradictory or different to what you'd presented. And so now I'm a bit confused. Which should I follow? Who is right? Great question, right? Now, the answer to that question is probably more important. The answer to that question from my perspective and Richard's perspective, because I know he spoke about this as well, is that there is no one size fits all on LinkedIn. When it comes to LinkedIn, there is never a one size fits all. There is never a prescription that thou shalt follow what I say and you will get the perfect results for your business. None of us know what your goals are, your resources, your experience, what your audience enjoys, maybe what they don't like is equally as important. And from that perspective, you might also be starting out or really experienced. There's so many variables which, when it comes to LinkedIn strategies, we need to stop and look at all of these things. So you need to attend events like this, or as you're scrolling on LinkedIn, I want you to question things. I want you to not just take things on face value and think, how could this work for my business? Would it work for my business? What kinds of people are interacting? Is the person that's saying this is the only way to do LinkedIn? If they're saying that, listeners, please turn around and run the other way. And if I do the same thing, I want you to run the other way from me as well, because it's so disheartening for me right now on LinkedIn that there are people that have a huge amount of followers that have gamed the system. That is, they have used engagement pods, they've bought followers, they buy viral templates which copy other people's works. There's so much of that goes on, and then they try and tell people on LinkedIn, this is the way that I achieved it, and they omit to tell everyone all of those things that they've done. And this is what is really frustrating me right now and disheartening, like I just said, because you show up, you think if you follow what they do, you don't get those same results, and you left scratching your head going, but they said it would work. I get people that have invested significant amounts of money with some of these people, and they've followed it to the letter and it hasn't worked for them. And I feel really sorry for them because it's done in good faith. And I don't think the onus is back on you, but I think it really highlights the fact that it doesn't matter who you follow on LinkedIn, whether it's myself, whether it's Richard, whether it's the other Richard, whether it's anyone else in your network. Always take everything with a grain of salt, and I want you to question it. And I want you to trial things and experiment and see, does that work for my business or not? If it doesn't work, bench it. It is totally fine as part of the big experiment to learn the things that don't work, these things are equally as important as the things that do work. And especially when it comes to company pages, they are one of the hardest parts of LinkedIn to get going. So make sure that you're having some fun. Get creative. When was the last time you tried something a little bit different? And this is what I tried to get across in my speech at the summit was, it's time, people, to try some new things. If you're stuck in a rut, especially for your page, mix it up a little bit and see, maybe that's what you need for your page to start getting more followers and more engagement. The second question that I got asked was someone that came up to me in the break, and we were just having a good old chat. And the question eventually came out that it was a person that I'm estimating was probably late 20s, early 30s, somewhere around that age group, and has done a lot of work creating content for the business's company page, which involves lots and lots of research. And this marketing manager had the concern that while she understands the importance of building a personal brand for herself, in the industry which she comes from, which is financial, and a lot of people have been in that industry, are leading the industry, have been in it for a very long time, and she's relatively new, she didn't think that she would have a voice on LinkedIn. And your employees are going through exactly the same thing. Before they create content, even if they think it's a good idea, our brains go into all the reasons why we shouldn't do it. And this thing is something that I spent a lot of time talking to this lady, and I really hope that I have inspired her, because on LinkedIn, there is a space for everybody. Everybody has a voice, everybody is unique, and we bring fresh perspectives. Now, imagine if she could be the person in that financial industry that leads the way for younger people. What she thought was, because everyone else was not like her, i.e. they were all older, more experienced, that it was a bad thing for her. Whereas I was jumping up and down for her, and she was like, Michelle, why are you so excited? And I'm like, because you stand out. We spend all our time trying to find ways to stand out in amongst these crowds, and you automatically already have that. So look at it as your advantage and not a disadvantage. And I saw that light bulb go off, and I am saying this to all of those listeners out here who might be starting out in their career, who are looking at other subject matter experts within their business and thinking, maybe there's not really a place for me here. Maybe I should leave it to those people. My guidance to you is no, get started now, start building your brand. There's a place for everybody on LinkedIn. That brings us to the third and final question that I think also underpins a lot of the conversations that are going on within B2B businesses looking to leverage LinkedIn to grow. And that is, Michelle, we've got our employee advocacy team, and I'm responsible for the page. And the employee advocacy team thinks that we're almost in competition with each other. And I see this all the time. This is not something new or unique, but it is a conversation that I want to start having with people that listen to this podcast. It happens all the time that we hear the news that says company page reach is down, you no longer see posts, so therefore why bother with company pages? And, that's the thing that comes up for me all the time. So the latest trend on LinkedIn is get your employees active, make sure that they're creating their personal brand, make sure that they're posting content. And it sounds so easy, but the reality of this is it is far harder to make that happen. Now, the other thing that I would say is we talk employee advocacy as being a standalone product and, the company page being standalone. Where's the teamwork? What is it that you can do to have conversations that bring the two projects in alignment? It's no different to, I listened to Laura Dern's presentation at the summit, and she was talking about the magic that happens when you align sales and marketing. Imagine if you could align employee advocacy and page advocacy. What is page advocacy? Well, glad you asked. Page advocacy is where you can use the page to support your employees. So the page could like and comment on their posts. The page can repost their individual personal posts. The page can do all kinds of things to support employees. Imagine how that employee feels when the page is there supporting them, acknowledging, and you're all working to go in the one direction. So rather than say it has to be either or, hey, you know what? Have your cake and eat it too. It's entirely possible. And the companies that really get this are the ones that have so much success on LinkedIn. Why? Because they're not fighting each other. They're literally just going, every action we take as a business is in service of our ideal client with a goal in mind that we're trying to reach. And the more we all pull in that same direction, rather than pushing and pulling against each other, the more that those results are going to come through quickly. So these things are at the core of what I think needs to happen more on LinkedIn. So to wrap it up, let's have a look at what are the actionable tips that I would give people. When you're scrolling LinkedIn and you see some latest trends or new advice or, something that's gained some traction because it's quite popular and tells you thou shalt do this on LinkedIn, your job, listeners, is to stop, have a look at it and think, how does that apply to my business? I can tell you worrying about whether hashtags are working or not working right now does not make one bit of difference for your post if you don't have a strategy, if you haven't done your customer research, and if you don't know the goals for the business and align your LinkedIn strategy to that. It is going to make no difference understanding the algorithm if you don't understand where you're trying to get to. So take a moment and read it and go, okay, that's nice, but how does it apply back to my business? And always be in the mode of questioning what you read, because newsflash, not everything you read on LinkedIn is true. I know, who would have thought, right? So the other thing that I want you to do is, if you are trying to get employees to be active on the platform, understand that if you have a young team, they are trying to find their place in the world. They are starting out in their career and they will need additional support to come and support them to find their voice on a professional platform. LinkedIn can be quite intimidating. It's a professional platform and it seems like everybody knows what they're doing and everybody's already got something to say. Reminding people that 9 out of 10 people will never post content on LinkedIn. That is how intimidating LinkedIn can be for your employees. So think about that. What additional support can you give these younger team members to encourage them to create content, not just once, but sustainably over the long term? It is not as simple as just give them training and they'll be fine. Quite often, what will go a long way is CEOs, managers, business leaders. If you see a young person in your business that is out creating content, be the first person to like and comment. Be the first person that is acknowledging them when you see them in the office. All these things make a difference. And the last thing, probably the most important thing before we wrap up this episode, is that you must find a way to bring the whole team together, from CEOs to marketing to sales, even customer service teams, your quality teams, your technical teams. It is about bringing everybody together. And you can start off small and work your way up, but there is no point in having one department going one way, another department going another way, and setting up an internal competition. That is not the name of the game. That to me says fundamentally you are so busy that you are focused on making your own business sound good, that you've lost sight in being in service to your ideal customer. Those businesses that understand that all the actions on LinkedIn are in service of your ideal customer and looking for those opportunities are the ones that win on LinkedIn. Don't forget, if you're looking for a speaker for your event, whether it's local or international, or maybe just a guest on your podcast, I'm always open to ideas and collaborations. So reach out to me on LinkedIn. Details are always in the show notes, and let's see what we can make happen. Until next week, cheers.